How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another Passion Traveler video. And today I want to discuss some of my theories about why men are hated, or not just men, people like us who are just, even if we haven't done anything super bad or whatever, you know, subhumans, high tune armies, low tune armies, above average looks or under, they're always going to get screwed regards if you don't do anything. If you try to be quiet, if you try to be, humble, you're definitely going to get, the roast treatment, because obviously that's how the social media, before social media, the movies did a good job on depicting like these typical guys are the villains, superhero movies are the evil guys. Very rare it's a good looking guy, but even the good looking villain is always kind of like understood in compare. The only like character that I seen they kind of did okay, it's with the Joker. But other than that, that's something I started to pay attention. Is basically I'm gonna use like Hollywood, Mexican media, sometimes even what's it called, South American series, because that's the only thing I watch. That's I can understand both languages. The subhuman guy or the normal guy, the reserved kid, is always going to be the perpetrator of horrible events that occur to me. That's to start off. And second of all, they're always the bad guy, the creepy guy, or even if we had nothing to do with being roasted or being hated by everybody, when he decides to defend himself, he still becomes the villain. And that's how it's been perpetrated. And unfortunately, some of these events have occurred, and there's a lot of theories. And I'm not saying that they have a right to do that. I condone even, I never liked the guy. I'm not going to lie. Some of the guys that I'm not going to mention the names, because I'm not trying to create any chaos or anything in my channel. But there's people I just never liked to begin with. But it's nothing to be shameful. That's why I don't care. That's why I don't even pay attention to what's going out there. I already knew since the movies that's how the life was going to be. The less attractive guy is going to get the worst roles, and they're going to make people believe that's how it is in the real world, because a lot of people do believe what happens in the movies occurs in the real world. And I was watching a couple series when it comes like to cops, SWAT. Usually like the creepy guys are sub 5, overweight, typical monsters. And so that's my first theory. The second theory, now that I think of, because I used to be religious, the Bible has always mentioned that men did atrocities back in ancient times, and so everything it comes back to men that did atrocities, did genocide, did this and that. So obviously, even though there's no good description of these ancient, even though I don't even know if the Bible happens to be true or not, but usually people, when they think of all these particular events that occur in the Bible, they think of like hideous guys doing all of these because they have hatred in their heart. They have every type of resentment. They want to take it, take their anger out of it, on anybody. Because every time I hear about the Bible, any particular critics, it's always ugly men doing all these horrific or petrifying genocides. But once again, the Bible, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, and I don't mean to. I'm not talking about the Bible. I'm not discrediting the Bible. All I'm saying is, if you really pay attention, this is how it all started. And just look for the dirt. Like I mentioned in the movies, even if you're not a hideous guy, let's say you're just above average, or you're just a decent looking individual, but if you're quiet or shy, people are going to take that as a sign of weakness, or you're just incapable of doing anything else. because there's a lot of narcissistic people. That's something I remember back in middle school. I did have this particular teacher that she was a narcissist, and she would like pick on me just because I was too quiet or too reserved. And she didn't know like nothing about my background, but obviously she didn't care. She had this huge ego, and I think this individual person is pretty evil. If you get in her bad side, she will take it on you. That's what I remember. But why did people allow it to happen, or what caused other teachers to ignore it? Because when you're quiet or reserved, they think you're just awkward. You're considered goofy. You're considered any type of the book that makes you this particular kid to watch out for, and that's not the whole case, And people don't really care to understand your background. Nobody cares. Even now, this all started in middle school. This is when middle school found out that a lot of events were going to occur. That's why they started including like counselors with psychology degrees, because they wanted to prevent an event, but not because they wanted to help them out. They just didn't want any suffering. So this is why I don't care anymore about people's opinions. People are always going to see you as different just because you're not like the other sheep. You're not like the other crowd. And when you try to better yourself for everything, they think you're just trying to overtake their place, and that's not even true. A lot of us we just want to improve. You just want to change your life. You want to do something different. Because I noticed all of this. When you try to better yourself, because they saw you a different way, even if they like you at the beginning. Because in my case, I was like at the beginning, because I was extremely humble. I was never this typical guy that bragged or anything, which I don't even brag. It's just I've been doing a lot for myself lately, and I can see the hatred. And I would not call it envious. It's people don't want to see it that way. I don't know. It's basically they don't want to, they don't want to be overtaken by the, reserved, the shy, or the quiet kid, because that kind of beats the narrative of charismatic chat, and it is what it is, guys. That's my only theories. The last theory that I can come up with, and like I said, there's no scientific evidence unless there's typical sources that can back it up, then I don't think I'm completely wrong. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, this is like part of the theory when it comes to like people who are trying to help these awkward kids, shy kids, whatever, psychologists. Most of the time, they don't fully understand what is going behind the currents. And I'm not going to say there's some of them who are psychopaths or who are schizophrenics, and I understand why you should be afraid of them. And I don't mean to disrespect people with, in these particular circumstances. I'm just giving you guys an example. But let's say that you have a lot of traumas. A lot of people didn't have great parents. They grew up with ignorant or horrible parents or whatever. Or just in plain simple, religion, like my faith, my former faith was manipulated, was, put a lot of psychological trauma. Most of the time, some of them will understand, some of them will not understand. Even if you take help, they're going to kind of see you as the weird kid anyway, because you just got help because you were forced to. And see, that's how social media, all these movies, all these series, has always perpetrated these particular individuals like us. And I'm not saying I always condone violence. I'm going to condone every typical event that has occurred when it comes to particular, characters of, I don't know if they were part of the manosphere. Like, I don't consider myself an Inco, but just black pill and MGTOW. But here's the thing, though. Everything that you're trying to say just as an advice or trying to give your own opinion, if it's still considered wrong or they criticize you for everything, then that means that they have never seen us in any positive way. That's a very unfortunate scenario, but it is what it is. That's the real world. The real world is brutal. Nobody cares. what can you do? There's actually nothing that we can do, because obviously you start out, people admire celebrities, they admire politicians. Even though I hate politics, what's been going on, there's a lot of mogging, there's a lot of look, I typically don't like neither, or I don't fully agree with both of their agendas, but like JD Vance gets made fun of for his appearance. They compare him with Gavin Newsom, and this is like people that were supposed to be in JD Vance's side, and now they're making fun of, they're mogging him for whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons as well, but I'm like, just because he's like a hideous dude, he's been labeled as already like a bad individual. But Gavin Newsom, we don't even know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. I'm not trying to make any assumptions, because obviously I don't know the guy. I haven't lived in California to even give my own perspective, but he has been seen as like the hero, and this is why we're always going to get all these particular accusations, because people are still blind by beauty. They're still blind by physical appearance, physical attractiveness, and they don't even know if this guy could be evil or good. But when people have when they start to have a lot of deceptions about individuals, they just blame it on the whole gender, and that's how it all starts. So these are all my theories. I really hope this video does not get canceled, it does not get any backlash. I'm just giving my theories. I can be wrong, don't get me wrong. If I'm wrong, then I'll admit it. And like I said, I don't have any particular sources with me at the moment, because I haven't done the research. Like I always mention, I'm just doing observations of my own. So the only thing we can do before I conclude is basically just we have to get used to being on our own. There's no way around it. Because the more I look at a lot of things from a perspective, from watching a lot of my family members, friends, if you're not the best looking individual, or if you're just not, they're so women have a description of how they like their men. That usually never changes, even if it's a troublemaker. But that's basically their taste. If you're not women's taste, even if they marry you for whatever reason, by the time you guys are done, they're going to use a lot of things against you. And that's how a lot of people got their reputation ruined. And I'm not saying some of them deserve it, but there's other people that didn't deserve it. They just decided not to bend the knee down, and their partner or ex-partners start to have that resentment because they couldn't humiliate the other partner. So they start to do whatever reputation to hurt his ego, to hurt his image. And that's something that I started to really see, and that's why the MGTOW made more sense. There's no way around it, and people are trying to call us crazy or label us as these particular bitter men, and they don't understand, and people would never. It's all due to how society has perpetrated all these individuals, even if you're not a bum. Because every time these particular channels are debunking people like on the Black Pill and the MGTOW or Inquels, obviously they say you're not doing enough, but even if you're trying to better yourself, you're still getting hated, because it's like people don't want to see you escalate. And they don't even know if some of these guys are productive. If you have, some of us might still work. We still are trying to get our higher education. We're trying to better ourselves, and we just try not to get into any particular political debates or confrontation. Like in my case, I don't have anything against women. Women, I don't have any resentment or any hatred. And I can't put the blame if they're not attracted to me in real life, and that's okay. There's nothing I can do about it. And here's another thing: I'm not even a misogynist, because even when I was dating, I still give the girl her respect, and you can call me a simp or whatever. But I know at the long term, if I would have tried to hold my ground, I was going to get a backlash. I was going to get a negative reputation, or even accusations that never happened. This is why I couldn't do it anymore. That's why I couldn't marry. I couldn't make any more commitments, because there's no way around it. If I would try to put some rules, manipulation tactics will start to spread around that because I tried to like put some limitations to this girl because she was getting out of the 50-50 agreement. When I told her things that I was uncomfortable with, she decided to ghost me, and it wasn't even a bad thing. I just told her that not to be a hypocrite. Like, I have never questioned her her access, or obviously you're always gonna have men hitting on your girl, whether you're there or not. But she will make a fit if a girl will stare at me. So one time, this is what I figured out, and then this is just an assumption, it's a theory, that before the last ex, the other ex that I had, the last Hispanic girl that I dated, so I only had 4 relationships. I do remember that when I was dating her, I don't know if it was jealousy, because she did end up confessing to me. I'm sorry, guys, give me 1 second. These allergies are killing me. She confessed to me that she was jealous, she was sensitive, that she didn't like these particular things going on. And people always go to this particular restaurant because usually I will go to work, then I will go pick her up, spend time with her. And she came from like a South American country, which I'm assuming that she was not fully aware how it is here in America. Sometimes waitresses try to be friendly with you because you're like a regular client. And that's something I always had in mind. There's always they're always going to stare whether you like it or not. And I'm not even saying this girl was like trying to flirt with me or anything. It's just this girl gave me like a different treatment because I was a regular customer, and I think my ex didn't like it, and she probably speculated that I was going to become this player, which it wasn't even true. And then she tried to like make a lot of scenes in public, which I didn't agree with that. I'm not saying being affectionate is a bad thing, but she tried to like obviously make her sense that I was hers, and kind of in a narcissistic way, because not very narcissist. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I had to take my allergy pill, but yeah, she that's what happened. That's what occurred, and I'm not trying to get out of topic from the other topic, but what I'm saying is basically we have no other room for defending our ground. Whether you try to do it the best way you can, you're always going to have a particular hater. And in the story of this girl, the reason I mentioned this particular, it's not just because that's how I became more Megta. It's basically I was supposed to be the one begging for her, deciding to make her the one to make all these decisions because I was unworthy, and I stood my ground. When she was starting to violate the 50-50 agreement, when I tried to put my foot down, that's when it crumbled. I hope this makes sense or not, but I'm just trying to tell you that there's not really much that we can do anymore. What can we do? I honestly don't even know for sure, because it's always been this way ever since in Bible time. Well, basically ancient times. I don't know if the Bible stories are completely real or not, but from every ancient story, it's always like an uglier guy being the villain and the good guy. It's always the more attractive individual. Maybe that's how it is, or I don't know. Even like high-tier normies or low-tier normies, that's always been described as like a high-tier normie. Is basically you're either not liked, but you're not disliked as long as you can serve a purpose. That's what I begin to realize. So that's my advice: is become more dependent. Don't depend too much on emotional connections with someone, because that could always end, and that would hurt you even more. And that's why I started to get used to being alone even more, and I try not to really like make any new friends because they usually come and go, and so you're no longer valid for anything. They're gonna always gonna be excluded because you don't fit into their club. And I don't even know, and I don't think this is because of genetics or, well, before people start commenting that it is genetics, I'm not saying about genetics as your beauty and everything. I'm saying like people who are just want to be normal, well-behaved individuals, not very loudmouth. You're not going to fit into a lot of the crowds. They just don't like people who are too quiet because they can't predict you. They cannot see how they can get your one way or another because everybody is trying to blackmail you. So, all right, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. I know I still need to improve. I'm sorry if I couldn't articulate well. I'm not doing quite too well. I'm not feeling the best. My allergies have been extremely horrible today. So, all right, guys, I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have a good day. Peace out.